is being recorded, and it'll be available later on ASU's website at angelo.edu/commitment. We have a team of academic leaders with us today to answer your questions about how we plan to reopen classes and campus and bring students back to campus this fall. All of our graduate programs offer fantastic programs, and they all offer online and in-class programs, face-to-face. But this group of people that we assembled today have probably more face-to-face classes and programs than most everyone else in graduate studies. So we asked them to visit with us today and answer some of your questions that you submitted ahead of time. And you are welcome to ask questions right now over in the Q&A to your right. So our panelists today are Dr. Michael Salisbury. He's Dean of Graduate Studies and Research. Dr. John Klingeman, Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities. Dr. James Forbes, Chair of the Department of Psychology. Dr. Tom Starkey, Chair of the Department of Social Work. And Dr. Shelley Weiss, Chair of the Department of Physical Therapy. So we're going to start by we're going to give you a little bit of an overview first, and then we're going to answer some of your pre-submitted questions. And then at the end of the program today, we will answer whatever you have asked in the Q&A panel. So Dr. Salisbury, I'm going to ask if you would lead us off today with an update on changes we can expect for the fall.
Questions, ease any, hope we can answer a few questions and ease any concerns you have as we move forward. To give you a few updates, one, we have applications that are due on a normal schedule. Obviously, we're moving a little quicker than normal because we start earlier. But to ease some concern that students have, we have a lot of departments who have waived some of the requirements going through the fall because we know that other institutions are going through the same difficulties we are in terms of trying to get transcripts put together, letters of recommendations out, because we're all living in a little different world than we have before. To give you a few examples, in experimental psychology, the recommendation letters are waived for as we move into the fall. We'll reevaluate going into the spring. The ag department's waiving the GRE again through the fall, so that because we know that you're taking tests and so forth, it has become difficult. The athletic training, they've waived their letters of recommendation as well, so that you're not trying to chase down faculty members who are scattered everywhere. The MBA has continued to waive the resume for those students that have over a 3.0. We have some other waivers in terms of GPA. My first recommendation is if you have concerns with information that you need to get submitted for your application, call my office or call the office of the departments that your program resides in and ask them specifically, because everybody understands we're in a difficult time. A couple of others as well in the College of Education. There have been some modifications to 2 or 3 programs. For one, the school counseling, and we've reduced the number of hours there. For Masters of Administration, it's reduced down to 30 hours. So go look at those as well. And those are usually things that we would communicate in person, but because we are functioning at a distance, I encourage you to really go look at those. And again, specifically, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call my office here in the College of Graduate Studies, or call the office to the program where the program resides. Another question that keeps coming up as well, because we have quite a few online programs, and we have the modified schedule for the fall that shows it's ending. The online programs will hold the exact same schedule as the in-person. We don't have 2 separate schedules. So it does end, if you have an online course or your program's entirely online, it does end by Thanksgiving as well.
All right, thank you very much. And from the College of Arts and Humanities, we have Dr. John Klingeman. I'm going to ask him to give us a brief update on his college.
Thank you very much, Becky. Indeed, my name is John Eusebio Klingeman, and I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities. And there's so many updates to tell you about. We right now we are working together as a team with the chairs to roll out a fall schedule that takes into consideration anything from the class structure, how we're going to rearrange spaces to make sure that we ensure social distancing. We're looking at the creation of hybrid classes, for instance. We're looking at spaces in the buildings. Will we move furniture around, putting up signs? How is the curriculum then going to be different in this fall as we move forward? And so there's quite a few, as Dean Salisbury pointed out, this is a different world that we're living in now. And if anything, what we're doing is trying to be as flexible as possible as we move into the fall, so that when students, faculty, and everybody's back on campus, then we can deliver a curriculum and make sure that students walk away from this semester having learned the material in their classrooms. And so we've installed cameras in the classrooms, for instance, and I'll get a little bit more into the actual classes and how we're going to develop hybrid classes in the fall. But we've installed cameras. We're looking at how we're going to use the spaces, for instance, in visual and performing arts. How we're going to roll out the classes in theater, ceramics classes, because a lot of these are high touch areas. And so we're also working with risk management on seeing how then we can develop a plan, a protocol, if you will, so that as these classes begin, then there is a procedure that we will follow to minimize any risk associated with COVID-19. And so I can assure you that, it's not just the people in the college and the chairs, but we're working with entities across our campus to make sure that come fall, we're mitigating any risks associated with COVID-19.
Thank you, Dr. Klingeman. That was a great update. I think one thing that I would like to add before we start into our Q&A, we started out in January talking about what a rapidly changing situation this was, as we were having to figure out what to do then. And that really hasn't changed several months down the line. It is still a rapidly changing situation. So be sure, as both of our deans said, be sure and stay up to date, check our website, check in with your dean or your department head for the latest update, just because things can change so quickly as we move through this situation. So we're going to get into some questions and answers. I really thank those of you who submitted questions ahead of time. It gave our panel a little bit of time to prepare. I'm going to start with Dr. Weiss in the physical therapy program. I'd like for you to give us an idea specifically about what might be different with physical therapy this fall with personal contact and things like that in your area.
Sure. We're preparing right now with, like everyone across campus, with items, cleaning items, different ways to sanitize the areas, because we do have high touch areas. And so one of our strategies, first off, is that for our labs, which is where our high touch interactions are for our labs, you'll have your same lab partner the whole semester. So that'll be one way to not create too much together time with everybody. So we'll have the same lab partner. We'll be wearing masks during those types of activities. You'll basically be sitting in the same seat the whole semester and that kind of thing, so that we can keep track of everything in a safe manner. We will clean it before and after each lab. If we're not having a lab and we're having a lecture, there will be, of course, the social distancing for the areas of lecture. And we're adding, if we need any desk and those types of things to create more, create the 6-foot distance in a more appealing way, then we're doing that. We're working on that kind of thing right now. And so those are the main ways we're doing just on everyday classroom activities.
And then Dr. Weiss, did I hear that your cohort will be coming back a little bit earlier?
Correct, yes. So we'll have a cohort coming in. Our students go out on practicum about 3 times during our program. And when we have been looking at and strategizing also how we'll bring them back in a safe manner for everyone involved. And so they will be required, for example, to take their temperature 2 weeks ahead of time of their arrival on a daily basis and report that to us. If they're happen to be in an exposure situation while they're out, then they're to notify us right away. And we've got a classroom setting that we can teach hybrid so that they don't miss any class. So we'll have them not in the class, but we'll have them in an online format so that their education is seamless the whole time. So those are the things that we're working on right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
lots of things to consider.
Mhm.
All right, Dr.
Okay.
Starkey, I'll direct this question at you. Will there be academic consequences for students who become sick and are unable to finish the semester, such as failing a course?
No. So basically, if a student were to contract COVID and have to miss an extended period of time, we have a couple of options in place. One of which is to allow the student to make that work up during the semester. And if they're going to be out for an extended period of time, or if it happens towards the end of the semester, we'll allow that student to get an incomplete so that they can finish up the coursework the following semester. So we're not going to punish a student for contracting COVID.
Thank you very much. Dr. Salisbury, one of the questions that we have is, will thesis defense be face-to-face?
The short answer is yes, but there is always a caveat to these in today's world. If it is safe and between the faculty on the committee as well as the student feel it is safe to function in a in-person format, then that it would be the method used. However, should there be any concern for anybody's safety or somebody feels uncomfortable in that scenario, then we can continue on an electronic or video type format. We've been doing video theses since last spring, so we've had quite a few defenses, and several programs are accustomed to that already, so it's not new to many of them. Those in the sciences may find a time when it's important to go ahead and have a face-to-face, but we'll encourage distance type theses defenses when possible. So we hope that's the best scenario is we get back to normal, but we know that may not. So if possible, face to face. If not, then we'll encourage and we'll continue to encourage distance or video type thesis defenses when possible.
Dr. Salisbury, this question too, I think a couple of the other presenters talked about this a little bit, but one of the questions is, just out of curiosity, will courses ever be will there be the option to do a class in face-to-face or hybrid?
Many of the graduate courses and the entire programs are online, and so those will remain that way. However, there are several that ideally face-to-face is the most effective way to pass along the curriculum. But in those scenarios, we're going to have students who, for own personal reasons, have some health concern that will want to do it. And as Dr. Klingeman had discussed, there will be all courses on campus. If they're in face-to-face, they're going to have some options for distance delivery. So there'll be a chance for both. Most courses that are typically on or face-to-face and are going online now, they will revert back once it's safe to face-to-face in subsequent semesters. So it's, as everybody's mentioned, it's a continual, the target's moving the whole time. So we're trying to do what's best to deliver the curriculum and do what's best for the students and take care of them. But eventually we will be back to whatever normal will become down the road, but we'll be there and have face-to-face when possible, because especially in many of your health professional areas, and also in the sciences, the STEM subjects, a lot of their information needs to be face-to-face, just because it does have a hands-on component. And we're eager to get back to that as fast as we can, so that we can do a better job and do our best job possible in delivering the curriculum.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. Dr. Forbes, this question was asked directly about counseling psychology. Will all in-person classes for the counseling psychology program be staggered to help with social distancing?
Thanks for asking about the counseling psychology program. You know, we've been planning for the fall classes, the back to school, for several weeks now. Individual faculty have developed a plan for back to school. So for individual faculty who have decided to teach face-to-face, and that's most of the program faculty, that will depend on the safe social distancing space for their room. Right now in the academic building, we're undergoing an extensive interior remodel. And it's coming along beautifully. The walls are painted, we have new floor, we have LED lighting, but we don't have furniture. And so we're not able to determine, we know what the size of the room is, but we don't have furniture. And so without that furniture, we can't determine the exact safe social distance required in that capacity for the room. But I can give you an example. 004 is an auditorium downstairs, has the furniture in it. The capacity for that room is 70. The safe social distance capacity is 26. It's quite a reduction. There'll be 26 people moving in. For all the face-to-face graduate counseling programs who meet, if their room capacity handles 15 people, then they'll all meet. They'll all meet in that room. If we can't get 15 people in that room, we have until the beginning of the semester to find a bigger room. If we cannot find a bigger room, then we'll alternate. Right now, the plan is to have the graduate classes, which tend to be smaller, 10 to 15, to meet all together in one room. And whether that will be in the academic building or elsewhere, I can't tell you right now. That's in the process of planning.
Fantastic. Thank you. Just so many variables to think about. All right. The next question is for Dr. Salisbury. Will the new Teacher Studies program degree open up to more than English, math, comm, or history?
Yes. The goal is to eventually have courses taught in each of the disciplines to provide the credentials so that you can go out and teach the various disciplines for dual credit or general ed courses. We're working with the departments now to identify courses that will fit, that need to be developed in order to provide that. So the short answer is yes. Right now, those degree programs are ready to go, starting as soon as we have students ready for those. As soon as we have students enrolled, those courses are ready to go. We're working on developing others. So hopefully within the year, we'll have all general ed disciplines represented.
All right, good to hear. Dr. Klingeman, with all the recent cases, particularly in Texas and in San Angelo of COVID, one of the questions that came in is, what about we're ending at Thanksgiving to avoid the flu season, the cold season. So this person asked, what about the August-September spike when thousands of students returned to campus, some possibly from hotspots around Texas? So would you address that?
That's a great question. And I don't know that, I think you said it earlier, in January, none of us had any idea how the semester would develop. And I can tell you that certainly none of us knew how the summer would develop. And now, as we see that, there are cases spiking everywhere. And, we have a 15-week schedule in the fall. And in order to be done at Thanksgiving and not bring students back, after Thanksgiving for final examinations, and we had to start early, August 17th. But I should add that, you know, over the course of the summer, we put together task forces, and several of us on this call are part of those task forces to try and mitigate the risks associated with COVID-19. I mean, you're talking about task forces dedicated to the cohorts that are going to be brought back to campus, whether they're employees, you know, we talked about students earlier, and then of course the faculty. You know, we're going to do a daily wellness screening that's going to be required of everybody. You know, you're going to be provided an electronic wellness badge. Just make sure your photo's up to date, by the way. But you'll be provided with an electronic wellness badge. You know, we've purchased high quality misters so that we can sanitize using EPA approved materials, sanitize the classrooms. And we're going to put in place hand sanitizing stations, hand sanitizing wipe stations. We're going to provide training for the faculty, the staff, and, you know, we're going to disseminate information to the students. So yes, indeed, we're going to be done by Thanksgiving so that we don't have, you know, that flu season upon us. And yes, we're going to start early, but, you know, a lot of it, we didn't know how it would unfold beginning in January, but we've certainly taken measures so that when students, faculty, and staff return to Angelo State University, and when the RAM fam returns, you know, we're going to try to minimize those as much as possible.
All right, thank you. I think moving along those same lines, Dr. Forbes, one of the questions that came in was, it is this person's understanding that one of the vectors of COVID-19 is time in exposure. Has any thought been given to that as far as scheduling classes, especially the longer once a week classes?
Yeah, our classes meet for 50 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. Graduate classes meet typically for 3 hours once a week. Up until now, we haven't been planning for time in building, time in place. But as Dr. Klingman mentioned, we have been planning for social distance. Here's the things that mitigate time in building.
Okay.
Social distance. We're going to be far apart. And not only that, it's going to be marked off. So once the furniture gets back in, we're putting blue tape down. So it shows people where they can go, where they can sit, where they can place their items. But we're not going to be commingling. We're not going to be touching each other. So safe social distance. So these are factors that mitigate that duration effect we're talking about. Safe social distance. We're going about that very thoroughly, systematically. And I mentioned earlier that there was a reduction in capacity from 70 to 26. A similar reduction is going to happen in each of the classrooms. Be proportionate, less than 50%, right around 40% capacity, 37%. People would be wearing face coverings. Those are two big items. Safe social distance, wearing face coverings. It's mandatory, that'll be enforced. We'll also have disinfecting wipes. I didn't know Dr. Klingman. Disinfecting stations, we got the sanitizer moving. And we have screening. Those four things mitigate any risk of duration, minimizes it to a degree that those four things are what we're doing.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Dr. Salisbury, back to you. These are all along the same lines, and I think, you know, everyone is just really concerned about health and safety and how this is all going to work. And I think you have all done a really good job talking about how Angelo State's approaching this from a multifaceted approach. I mean, all kinds of things are being put into place. This particular question asks, if graduation must be virtual on August 15th, why would face-to-face classes be okay on August 17th?
Okay, I think that's this question's perfect, following up with what Dr. Forbes just mentioned about the items to mitigate potential transfer of any disease, and also social distancing and so forth. If the variables between the two are so different. When we think about a graduation, we have people going into one room, and we have very little control over making sure we have social distancing, making sure we have appropriate face coverings. We don't know anything about them. They may be coming with a fever. They may have symptoms that we don't know about. But we do have for classes things that we can as ASU and the community control. And one is, as Dr. Forbes mentioned, we have screening. People are gonna know before they go to class whether they're feeling ill. We have a series of questions they have to answer each day. We will have required face coverings in order to reduce the transfer of COVID. We have space reduction so that we can prevent too close a contact. We can provide the appropriate and safe social distancing. And then we have frequent cleaning that's going to occur. So the two scenarios are way different. One of them we can control and do what's best and follow. The other, we don't have control over the general population. It's much like if you go out into the open public right now, what you do at your house to be safe is probably not what if you go to the grocery store, is being handled. So it's kind of those two different ones. You can control your house. You can't control when you go out in public. And that's kind of the two differences. So we'll be perfectly fine following what the CDC and the health professionals. And I want to reiterate what's been mentioned several times on these task forces. We have the local health professionals are as involved in making our decisions as we are, because they have the newest information, and they're making sure we follow those. So we're in good hands with the task forces that are putting these regulations into place.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Klingeman, I'll ask you to answer this question. Will we need to see the accommodations department to be able to use the elevators this semester?
Thank you. The elevators are going to be available for people to use. And of course, there will be signage throughout campus that will direct people as to, the amount of people that can actually utilize the elevators. But signage will be placed throughout campus, reminding you to socially distance and note the 6-foot markers between you and the people around you. There's going to be directional signage in the hallways and the stairways to assist with the flow of traffic, and there's plexiglass barriers. And so I firmly believe that when people come back to campus, that we will have the information readily available so that people will know, what is the distancing and really a protocol to follow.
Thank you, Dr. Klingeman. I do know firsthand our office has been making signage, and you're right, there will be plenty of signage around for elevators, for walkways, stairways, everything. So be looking for that. All right, back to Dr. Forbes. What will the practicum look like for counseling students who test positive for COVID?
We haven't had any students test positive. We did have a student who was placed in a practicum site where one of the members of the population being served contracted COVID. And so everyone had to self-quarantine. And so what we did is we made adjustments. So it's important for students to get their practicum hours so they're eligible for licensure. And so our job is to make sure they get those practicum hours. And so what Dr. Burkhalter did, Dr. Burkhalter directs and manages practicum placements with agencies all over Texas, especially in this county, but all over Texas. So what he was able to do with the student who didn't have COVID but had to self-quarantine, missed some practicum hours, that student was able to make them up in a different venue at a different time. And so I've spoken with Dr. Burkhalter about this, and he knows the importance of practicum hours for licensure eligibility, and he's fully committed to making sure students get all the practicum hours that they need. And if they can't get them for whatever reason in the allotted time, then they can get them at a different time. Maybe a different semester, or maybe in a different venue, but they will get the practicum hours. So I don't foresee, that's not an insurmountable obstacle. That's that's a minor deviation in their careers on their path to attaining practical knowledge. If I could iterate one point that has been made about all the measures that mitigation efforts, seems to me that all of those efforts help with behavioral regulation and help people regulate their lives. And it's becoming clear to me that people are safer at ASU than they are walking around out there in the community. And just want to make sure that point gets across. I think it gets lost a little bit. So thanks.
Sure, thank you. I think the common thread that I hear from everyone on the call today is flexibility, that we're having to be a little bit more flexible in this situation, no matter what the case is. So I appreciate your saying that. Dr. Starkey, did you want to talk about how social work is adapting for the fall? And
Sure, I'd be happy to. It may sound maybe almost a little redundant or repetitive, but like all the other panel members today, you know, we're going to be doing social distancing, the wellness screenings, face coverings. We're going to be following CDC and ASU policies as far as it pertains to making sure that, you know, students, staff, and faculty are all safe as we can make it from COVID-19. So we're doing everything we can to ensure the student safety. That's first and foremost in our mind. And if I could, I was in the Health and Human Service building earlier this morning, and I know Dr. Weiss is there currently. Our elevator, we already actually have a sign up. We're only going to be able to put 4 people in our elevator, but it's still going to be functioning. To kind of follow up what Dr. Klingeman said, there's going to be signage, so it may vary, but I know in the Health and Human Service building, it's going to be limited to 4 people at a time. So just make sure that you're paying attention to signage, as you said earlier as well.
that's good to know. And that also means, you know, I think for students to schedule appropriately, because you're not going to be able to get everybody on the elevator. May have to take the stairs or wait just a little bit longer. So develop the schedule appropriately too. Thank you, Dr. Starkey. Dr. Forbes, I'm going to go back to you for this question. The question came in, are you 100% positive the fall semester will be on campus with face-to-face classes?
Well, I am 100% positive that the schedule, the fall schedule, is accurate as of this moment. Whether that changes between now and the beginning of the semester, can't tell you that. But whatever happens, I'm pretty confident, based on our experience over the spring, that we can craft a program that will give students a meaningful university experience, and one of academic integrity. Or that right now, a lot of it's going to be on campus. A lot of it is scheduled to be on campus. That has to change. It'll change. It doesn't have to change.
Very good. We're planning for it in every way possible. Thank you. Dr. Salisbury, back to you. The question is, how will the new scheduling affect spring break and Thanksgiving break? And I think, you know, Thanksgiving break is covered. That's going to be the end of the semester. Do we know anything about the spring semester at this point?
At this moment, the spring is on a normal schedule, but as we've all mentioned, things are changing. The senior academic leadership is in communication with our governor's office on a regular basis, as well as the system, the CDC, all health professionals, and that decision will be made the moment there's concern. Hopefully, Obviously, we have to have some sense of an idea when the semester starts as to what our plans are. But as of now, the only change in holiday schedule that's been made is we end the fall at Thanksgiving, and we will resume in January as normal at this moment. But as Dr. Forbes mentioned a minute ago, the only thing he's 100% sure of is what today is. And that's kind of where we are on that as well. But rest assured that the moment any decisions made on that, it will be communicated in every method we can via social media, emails, on our website. And I want to reiterate again, it's because of constantly changing schedules, make it a point to visit our website and click on that COVID link at the top on a regular basis to identify any new changes that are coming. And please read your email as frequently as you can, because that's how we'll get information to you.
Absolutely. So continuing with you, Dr. Salisbury, this question is related to a student that has to extend a graduate program past the deadline. How is the university going to track students like that and help them develop alternatives?
Again, going back to one of my answers earlier, is make sure you communicate with your program, communicate with my office. We will do what we can, because we understand that this has changed the schedule of some folks. It's caused because of difficulty with classes. Maybe we're taking them in a different order, or maybe because we have concerns at home, we're slowing down the number of courses we're taking, and it may extend beyond that published time frame. We're working with you to make sure that we do what we can to develop an alternative plan, working with the departments, making sure that we provide the most up-to-date courses, or if it's because of a course rotation, maybe there's a substitution, a course that's similar in content that can accomplish the same goals. But we're working with everybody individually, and communication with us so that we can communicate back with you as a student is the most critical, and we'll take care of you that way. As somebody mentioned a while ago, that the theme is flexibility. We're all having to be flexible, and you'll learn one thing from us, everybody that's on this panel, but also at ASU, is the students first, and we're going to do what we can to take care of you.
Very good. Continuing on, Dr. Salisbury, this question is, what if my research requires in-person participation, and will there be in-person data collection in the fall?
Yes, there's two types of data collection I want to touch on. One is if it's in a laboratory setting that you're having to collect in, because you're having to do laboratory experiments and so forth with your faculty advisor or fellow graduate students. Yes, we'll use, they're working on laboratory safety recommendations now as to what equipment needs to be there, what kind of spacing and so forth, and cleaning of equipment. But yes, research data will continue. On the human part, say it's human data collection, things that would need IRB approval. Ironically, that went out today in terms of some recommendations and guidelines for that. It's been published on their Blackboard page as well, to where that will continue, but with safety regulations in place so that we take care of not only you as a student researcher, the faculty as a researcher, but also your participants, your subjects as well, to make sure we keep the safety of everybody involved. But yes, it will continue, just with guidelines so that we follow CDC recommendations and our healthcare advisors as well.
All right, thank you. Dr. Forbes, this question involves experimental psychology. This question begins, I'm entering the experimental psychology program in the fall. How will this affect my research studies? We'll be starting. And if for some reason we have to go back to online in the fall or spring, how will that affect the research and lab processes for our theses?
Before I answer that, Becky, I'd like to go back to that earlier question about practicum and COVID.
Okay.
I think an important point is that students have to exercise common sense, social responsibility, personal responsibility. So if they're screened for COVID, they need to tell their supervisor immediately. So don't be afraid of missing something. You test positive, let us know. Because we have processes and procedures in place where we can we can prevent the spread of that. That's really important. So if that happens on practicum, let your supervisor, practicum organization, agency supervisor know right away, take appropriate steps. Let us know, let the practicum supervisor, director, Dr. Burkholz know immediately. And I would add that applies to any student, staff, or faculty test positive. Let us know. That's another measure that we're taking that will help us. So to the students' question, understandable questions about research. To some extent, Dr. Salisbury has addressed this. Yes, there will be research. Right now, the plan is for in-person research. Laboratory research should go on as planned. Human research, human subject research, in-person, face-to-face research should go on as planned. If necessary, human subjects research can be converted to online format. There are protocols that if there's a question and there are parameters, researchers can design protocols to address it. Infinitely clever beings. And all those protocols will be vetted by the IRB, Institution Review Board. And so ultimately, the IRB determines whether those protocols are sufficient for the question and the participants involved. And so I think the students should plan on a normal research experience, but one that may benefit and be enriched by the necessity to adapt research methods and protocols to meet contextual needs. So I think it's a great opportunity. And I would also encourage any student in the MS Experimental Psychology program to contact the faculty in that program, Dr. Kreitler, Dr. Brewer, Dr. Lippy, none of whom, nor any of their students, skipped a beat in research. And I would expect that to continue. Students should be able to contact the faculty they're going to be working with and start working on that right now.
All right, thank you. Back to your comment about this being an opportunity if you do have to adapt. I think that's, I heard someone on campus the other day say something about, this having to go to online has really kind of increased some job opportunities for people graduating because they do have extensive online experience now and they're able to handle meetings online, all kinds of things. So that's a good point. Thank you. All right, our last pre-submitted question deals with graduation. And Dr. Salisbury, I'm going to ask you to answer this one. How and when do we obtain graduation gowns? Somebody is ready to go get that gown.
And as this panel would back me up on this, saying that's our number one goal, is so that you get to that point and get to obtain your gown and walk the stage and receive your diploma. I would like to reiterate that what Dr. Forbes just mentioned a second ago, that all research associated with your graduate program, we haven't slowed down at all summer. That we have continued with defenses and research and data collection, and everybody has remained safe. I think that proves that we have protocols quickly in place, and now we're even better that we will continue graduate programs without any stumbling blocks at all. I think that's one, we have very intelligent faculty members and working with that, but just as important as we have great students that understand the importance of taking care of business that way. Now, for obtaining graduation gowns and so forth, the first step would be is to pay attention to any type of communication about the graduation ceremony plans. And then from there, the place that you would obtain all of your graduation material would be through the bookstore. So contact them via email, telephone call. They are still there to serve you just as they always have been. They've been very good they've been very good at communicating with students and faculty in terms of what needs to happen. So that would be my recommendation, is to contact them, and then also make sure you've applied for graduation so that they get your name on a list that says you're about to graduate, so they can then contact you as well.
Fantastic. All right, we do have one question in our Q&A box over to the right, and I will, not everyone can see that, so I'll read it and I'll let whoever wants to answer it take it. It's, we all hope things go well, but if the last few months have taught us anything, it's that there's a big difference between what we want and what we get. Is ASU prepared to become a hot spot? And what do those plans look like? Dr. Salisbury, you want to go ahead and take that one? Anybody can jump in.
Sure, I'll start that. We're not prepared to become a hotspot, but should the situation occur, yes, we have plans in place. As part of a meeting this morning, there was a lot of discussion in terms of that. I actually started a training program today and understanding how to contact trace and identify where it came from so that we can communicate as quickly as we can with everybody involved. There are protocols in place with our partner, Shannon Health, the hospital, and so forth, in terms of to take care of any circumstances that arise that require their assistance. I know everybody in the administration is prepared to do what it takes, make modifications, and if we have to make immediate modifications, we can. As terms of continuing to provide the curriculum, Dr. Klingeman mentioned earlier about in-person classes all being videoed. You can continue even if somebody becomes ill, they will continue to have the opportunity, regardless of whether the course was planned to be in person or distance. You have the opportunity to continue at a distance and never have to slow down in receiving the curriculum if that happens. So I think we're very well prepared. That would be our plan, hopefully plan D or F, that we get to that point, not even plan B. Our plan A is to continue as normal. Plan B is to just have small adjustments along the way. But yes, ASU's prepared. Exactly what it would look like, I think it depends on the scenario. I would hate to try to outline it now, because whatever I tell you today is going to be wrong tomorrow in terms of this situation we're dealing with.
Absolutely. I do want to emphasize in context with this that we have great healthcare. We have great healthcare partners in the community, and we are partnered with Shannon Clinic, and they have been absolutely wonderful to help us think through situations and how to handle them, and they're a wonderful partner. We also, being part of the Texas Tech University system, have wonderful resources at the health science centers in El Paso and in Lubbock. So those are wonderful resources. So I think we'll, to respect everyone's time, we'll wrap up today. If you have any further questions, please feel free to use the questionnaire form that we sent out, or give one of us a call. Visit our website, angelo.edu. We'd be happy to answer questions. I think what you heard today is, I know we say it all the time, but we really mean it. I think what you heard is that this is the Ram family still at work. We say that we take care of our own, and we really mean that. These are times that we didn't ever expect to experience, and we've pulled together, and we're going to provide an excellent education as always. So I thank all of the panelists today for taking time to join us and give us information, and I thank those of you who attended. This will be available later on our website, as I said. So I wish you all a good afternoon, and thank you for being part of our session.